So check out this video that I just did in order to be able to explain how I was able to, as a combat veteran, overcome a lot of my conditions through natural forms of healthcare. I'm Frank Ritz. If you haven't checked my other video, like Jackie put me on the spot and made me tell my story about my time in service as a veteran, or excuse me, as a United States Army officer. Subsequently, I became a physician assistant, and just sort of after I had gotten back with my deployment, if you will, or my multiple deployments, what I did to be able to combat a lot of the wonderful baggage that came because of my time in service. First and foremost, as a follow-up, I want to make sure that, on this last video that I had, I talked about reaching out and creating a community and finding help. Well, I want to take it one step further than that, because I am a person of action, if you will. And so I wanted you, our listeners and our watchers, to be able to understand that there is hope for you. Unfortunately, a lot of it is awareness. And so if you're having some issues with depression or anxiety, or you have a hang up or a hurt or something that is just gnawing at you and making you not be the full person that you were intended to be, there is help for you. I just simply Googled a really great resource that came up, and it's called Mental Health America. And we'll talk about some physical things too, but I wanted to definitely address this first. Is that on this website, you can actually click into an area that will show you where your local support groups are. There's a crisis number that I want to make sure gets put onto this video, and that crisis number is 1-800-273-TALK, T-A-L-K. I don't have a phone in front of me, so unfortunately I can't give you those digits. Actually, let me pull up my phone, that way we can. Let's see. Okay, so here we go. So it's going to be 1-800-273-8255. So it's 1-800-273-8255. Now, the other one that also is I do believe that that's also the National Suicide Hotline. And so that is a phone number. It's free of charge, available 24/7. You can even text them actually at MHA, and then text that number to 741-741. And there is somebody that could be available to actually help you right there on the spot. But being able to get back to this, the finding the support groups, there are support groups that are available for anything that you can think of. So, there's one for an adult children of alcoholics, somebody for the Alzheimer's Association, Autism Society of America, the crisis text line if you need that still, Debtors Anonymous, Depression and Bipolar, Emotions Anonymous, everything, Male Survivor, Narcotics Anonymous, Parents, Families, and Friends, Self-Mutilators Anonymous. I know, unfortunately, there's a lot of that happens today. Tourette syndrome. So you click on those, and it actually will shoot you out through those links to be able to talk to somebody, or better yet, find a local support group for you. So I find that to be an unbelievably useful resource, and it's super imperative that we make sure that we understand that those resources are available to us. So let me tell you a little bit more. I wanted to make sure that I said all of that, and then I still want you guys to comment below and talk below. And if you don't quite have the bravery to jump out onto a phone call with a complete stranger, I get it. But maybe this means will be good for you to be able to reach out as well. So we need to be able to help each other. So just like I said, telling your story, being able to commune with people even in an online space, totally awesome. Okay, so how did I do it? Well, I realized first and foremost that whatever I was doing conventionally was not working. And so I started doing a lot of the things that I think a lot of folks do. I started going to see the doctors and thinking about some different medications and all that kind of stuff. And I kind of just had to come to the realization that it was Jackie and I always wanted to have things in a very natural way. Even in our infancy, this was well before the website had taken off and we met all of you guys, was we wanted to take those steps necessary to not ever be dependent upon only conventional medicine means. We knew that there was like other ways and other natural means to be able to actually do this. And so I looked into a lot of really great methods like supplementation and other physical medicine methods to be able to manage my condition. So to let you know, I had back pain, I have knee pain, I have carpal tunnel on both sides, I've got neck pain, and it's all, degenerative stuff, meaning like, there's arthritis of all of those areas, and it's something that I just have to deal with every single day. Well, the first thing that I told myself is I said, I'm not going to allow myself to fall into the trap of being an emotional eater. And unfortunately, a lot of us, and matter of fact, I'll actually give them a shout out, but Angela and Eddie Villa, who just so happen to do doTERRA alongside with us, they're on a total different team, but they're fantastic people, is we do a lot of that here in America, and we eat to self-medicate, and we eat to be able to cover up the emotions that we have, and they talk about that a lot. And so we want to make sure that we are getting ourselves out from underneath that trap. A couple of statistics. I just went to this Eating Healthy in Practice conference where there was medical doctors, medical doctors, nurses, nurse practitioners, PAs like myself, just underneath, and it was in a beautiful Omni Grove Park Inn, and it was a 2.5 day conference about just how we have an epidemic in America, that we have all of this disease that strikes us, but the problem is that the vast majority, like over 90% of it, is preventable. So when we think about like the preventable diseases that a lot of Americans are afflicted with, we're dealing with certain things like heart disease, obesity, chronic kidney issues, chronic liver issues, arthritis. All of these different things are all preventable diseases. They actually say that even 80% of Americans now are actually suffering from some sort of a chronic illness. Now, it could be something as, pervasive as high blood pressure, or it could be people who have multiple chronic conditions. But the one fact remains right now is that we spend over $2 trillion, and that's trillion with a T, $2 trillion a year we spend on managing and trying to treat these preventable diseases. Like, we don't have an infectious disease that kills Americans. Our health system is so advanced now that even some of these most difficult conditions that we hear about that unfortunately kill folks in other countries by the thousands, we don't hear about those here in America, because we have a very extensive medical care system that can actually manage and treat a lot of these conditions. But the problem is that we're actually making choices every single day that are still killing ourselves. And we are killing ourselves by the droves. Heart disease remains like the #1 killer of men. It's things that we can prevent by taking these paths of choosing to do things more healthy and choosing to do things more naturally every single day to avoid that. I just want that to settle in one more time. 80% of Americans, over 3/4 of Americans have a condition that can be managed in a preventable way. And it really does come down to diet and nutrition. So what our aim is, Jackie and my's aim, is with this unconventional wellness platform, we want to ensure that you understand your food starting off first. We're going to break down barriers of, I don't know what to eat. I don't know how to prepare the food. I don't know how to source, like grass-fed beef, or what's that all even about? What's pasture raised? What's free range? What's organic? We're going to break down all of those things. We also want to break down, like, how do you talk to a farmer? Like, do you understand how to interface with a farmer at a farmer's market? Like, you got to the farmer market, great, but now what questions do you ask? Like, what's the quality of food that you're getting even there? So We want to focus on food. We, even matter of fact, are going to open up our kitchen and we're going to actually, show you us preparing meals and stuff like that, and letting you know that we are speaking sort of like, we're practicing what we preach, if you will. And so we want you to be able to see these things and understand that food can be enjoyable, but it could also be unbelievably nutritious. Because let's face it, folks, one thing that's certain is that if we eat food, it's got to taste good, right? Like, it can't taste like, this piece of paper right here. We know that it's very good for us, but if it tastes like paper or if it tastes like cardboard, folks, we're not going to eat it, right? So we got to make nutritious taste good. And so we want to help you bridge that gap where, it could be affordable, it could be budget friendly, it could be easy, it could be like allergy friendly, and you can prepare it and you can feel nice and safe and secure and have a really great meal with your family and friends, knowing that you're eating nutritious food. And oh, by the way, it actually tastes good. And so that's what we want to do, uncovering and unfolding the diet part. And that's what we've been able to do, just to speak kind of personal testimony wise. We've been able to do that now for the last, at least 8 years, okay? We want to go on here and let you know that it can be done. And so we want to talk about the paleo diet, the Mediterranean diet. I want to unpackage ketogenesis, the keto diet, intermittent fasting. What is that all about even? Because the most important thing is that we start realizing that our food is going to become us. And it's extremely important to really uncover that, because there are folks who can lose hundreds of pounds by just changing their diet alone. You don't have to go in there and necessarily kill yourself in the gym. So Jackie and I have been able to really unpackage how do we eat for health, okay? And that's one of the first foundational things that I myself did to help manage my chronic conditions. I mean, I came out of the military in pretty decent condition. I had my injuries, if you will, but the fact of the matter is that I did like any good veteran should do. And I started kind of just going, oh, look, I don't have to take a physical training test anymore. I don't have to wear my uniform anymore. I don't have to wear my armor anymore. I don't have to carry heavy backpacks. What's that all about? So I realized that my activity level just started tapering down. Well, of course, with my activity level tapering down and me sort of not being as conscientious when I first got out for the first 4 to 6 months, I realized that my weight was going up. And so with my weight going up, because I started eating foods that just tasted good and weren't necessarily trying to do anything nutritious for me, I realized I started feeling worse. Come to find out, I was eating a lot of pro-inflammatory foods. I was eating some more processed things that I probably shouldn't have. And I realized my knee pain got worse. My back pain was getting worse. My neck was starting to ache a lot more. And honestly, folks, I was fatigued a lot. I was really, really just had this level of fatigue that just ran with me throughout the day. And so I said, I can't do this anymore. What do we need to do from here? And I started making conscientious choices. And that's exactly what this whole thing is about. It's about choice. We want to help you make those positive choices, but I have to be able to pull that desire out of you. And that's exactly what I'm here for, is that I want you to know that you are capable and you are worthy and you are totally can be accepting of change. You do not need to stay in the current funk that you're in. It requires you to conscientiously tell yourself, I can absolutely do this. I am not going to be a statistic, and I am going to make sure that I start making those changes necessary to improve mine and my family's health. And we're here to help you do that. And so we're going to unpackage food. And then let me talk about physical activity. Physical activity does not need to be this elusive, crazy, oriented thing. If you want to do a gym membership, great. If you want to not do a gym membership, that's fine too. But the important thing is that you're getting out into nature or outside and you're moving. Move in your house. I'm seated right now, but I'm also, after this video is over, I'm going to stand up and work at a standing desk. I'm going to move around, take a break, kind of throughout my day, do some squats, do some light movement, move things around in order to be non-sedentary. You do not have to necessarily leave your house to actually get yourself in good physical condition. We can do great light exercise around the house by just simply cleaning the home. It'll make us feel better because we'll look around, we'll have that sense of accomplishment, and we'll actually see things are clean, and we'll enjoy where we live a little bit more. If you want to get out, take the kids, maybe grab your spouse or your significant other, get outside and just go for a walk. You want to aim for about 20 minutes of movement a day. That movement can start out slow. Like if you're unfortunately overweight to the point where it hurts to move, that's okay. Take it easy and work your way up there. Start some stretching. Jackie and I have fallen off of doing some really great yoga, and I've realized that my back is suffering. It's time for us to pick up yoga again. So it does not have to be crazy physical exercise in order for you to be able to drop weight. You have to also make sure that you keep your physician or your provider involved because, of course, if you want to start a more rigorous physical training regimen, you've got to make sure that you talk to your healthcare providers to make sure that you're actually in shape, if you will, that your body can actually tolerate that. But go along the spectrum, guys. Our bodies are made for moderation, and so we don't have to feel like we have to go from a 0 to a 10 immediately. Like if we go from a 0 to a 1, that's a movement of 100% right there, and so we're actually moving in the right way. And so we're also going to sort of uncover this concept of functional movement, like stooping and bending and squatting and sitting and lifting things possibly over your head. These are all functional movements that it's super important that we understand what those are so we know what our physical limitations might be so we can continue to build our abilities in a positive way. One of the really great things I was able to do is I was able to get my first degree was actually in exercise physiology. And one of the classes that really stuck with me was kinesiology, which is the study of movement. And everything that I do, I try to make sure that I do it in a very productive way. So like if I'm going to bend over to go pick something up, by all means, I want to make sure that I ergonomically do it the right way. So we're going to unpackage functional movement. And I realized that stretching is a lot more important for me than it even was to actually like get out and go for another run. Like I knew that I needed to focus on relaxing the muscles rather than running right back out so I can do it for the purpose of burning calories. And so we'll talk about all of that, and that's like helped my back pain and my knee pain tremendously, just understanding that core strength and functional movement concept. Then I had to start looking at like sleep, right? So like because of my PTSD, I was getting like terrible sleep. I was like experiencing, the things that we can even see on movies. I was watching a movie yesterday that it depicted your symptoms of PTSD extremely well. So like moving around in bed, woke up from a dream, sweaty, staring at the clock, all that sort of stuff. That was me, and I totally did that. So I want to help you understand how to get better sleep. Sleep is important. It's kind of morbid when we think about it, but like we actually spend a third of our life sleeping. And so what I say is like, why not make sure that we're getting great sleep, right? So like, why possibly spend up to 8 hours a day struggling to get effective sleep? And so we'll talk about stuff like sleep hygiene and some tips that I have to help you start getting good sleep. And I started following these things because I was talking with them about my patients all the time, but I yet found out that I wasn't doing them. Let me give you one amazing tip that you could have as a takeaway right now. Listening to this is that if you do nothing else, take a journal and start writing down what's going on in that journal before you go to sleep. I have found out that more and more people have found that to be a more effective strategy and technique to help them actually get to sleep, because most of the people that I've talked to about sleep hygiene, they actually have an issue going to sleep because they can't stop thinking about what they're going to do tomorrow. And so like, if I could just tell you one thing, grab a notebook, grab a journal that stuff, because guess what? Once you close it for the day, that will be waiting for you the next day so you can tackle it then when you're supposed to. We also want to talk about ways to mitigate and reduce your stress. And so like we started getting into stuff like meditation. I'm a spiritual guy. I started reading my Bible more. You can go to your place of worship and just get immersed in that. Yoga is a great meditative thing because it requires you to just slow down. And that is crucial. We call it the golden hour. Is we wake up before our children, and we just sort of center ourselves for the day. Like we did meditation, we did quiet time, we listened to light music, I journaled, like whatever method you need, it's imperative that you just get together with yourself and you just experience that moment of quiet. Start off with 10 minutes if that works. Start off with 30 minutes if that works. Me, I'm actually like doing it like at least an hour a morning. I built myself up to that. It was like maybe 5 minutes, and I just had to like habitually get up and work on it. And now I'm to like where I'm doing at least an hour a morning. And it is just so rejuvenating. It focuses me, it centers me, excuse me, and it allows me to have the ability to sort of like attack the day with the impressions of being more centered. Another thing that I like to look at now, and I learned this like just recently, is look at your hand like as if it's your brain, right? So like this is my spinal cord, okay? And when I'm tucking my thumb in, this is sort of like our primitive brain. So like at the base of my palm is this thing called the primitive brain. All right, this is where our reaction, our fight or flight comes from. My thumb is actually more of like my limbic system, okay? This is where fears and anxiety and all of my ability to sort of like process what's going on and react to it in such a way that a lot of my memories are created because of the beginnings of the limbic system. When you fold your fingers over it, this becomes sort of like our brain, our cerebral cortex, right? The thing that makes us a human, allows us to have speech and free will and ability to have choices and to think. Well, in the front of this part, where my index finger is, I think of that as sort of like what is called my prefrontal cortex. My prefrontal cortex is actually the spot where, this is where conscious thought comes from. This is where motor movement and even my positive reactions come from. When I allow something to stress me and I do this, that's what I refer to as sort of like, what is referred to as blowing your top or popping your top. The problem is that your brain is very ineffective for helping with very good thought when you do this. And so your limbic system and your reptilian brain take over. And that's where we start having the fight or flight response. So when you are hit with adversity, what's the first thing you should do? You should stop, breathe, give yourself a moment to actually react the way that you desire to react. So if something adversely comes to me, like some person cuts me off in the on the interstate, I take a second and I just tell myself, breathe, relax, take a moment, process it. Let's not overreact. I don't want the road rage to happen, and so what I do is I take a second, I release all of that to where my frontal cortex, my prefrontal cortex can take over. That way I don't pop my top, okay? Because when I pop my top, often I'm going to react in such a way that I will regret. Like I'll get like a feeling of guilt because I reacted to that driver in a way that wasn't extremely pleasant. I sped up or something like that, and put myself in more danger because of the fact that I didn't want that person to cut me off. And so if I react and relax and just take my time and realize it's all good, we're all going to the same place, it's all good that they're in a hurry, I just let them go. And I have started trying to use that as sort of like a way I stare at and I go, I want to make sure that I'm always using my prefrontal cortex. How can I do that? I stop, I breathe, I relax, analyze the situation, and then react more appropriately. Because often when we do that, we might be doing it with friends and loved ones, and we might pop our top and say something that we don't appreciate, or they absolutely don't appreciate and take massive offense to it, and then we realize, why did I say that? And then we have to spend more time trying to resolve that relationship rather than reacting to it in the right way. Guys, that's been a game changer for me, is to just simply relax, recognize the emotions that are building up in me, and realizing I want to react to these in a positive way. Let me stop, let me breathe, let me relax, and let me react to them appropriately. And then lastly, we want to talk about detox, right? So like we realize that we might be eating right, we might be, removing processed foods, we might be getting out moving, getting that functional movement piece, sleeping better, reducing our stress, but then it's like, wow, our bodies are like getting bombarded with toxins all the time. And so we wanted to make sure that we started really diving into that. And we started looking at like superfoods and like different products that we had around our home, and we wanted to like naturalize the home. And then we wanted to like take it a step further and like try to naturalize our world. And so we are constantly being bombarded with obnoxious chemicals every single day. You know, as soon as you step, if you live in the city, as soon as you step outside, you're going to be being hit with like, you know, exhaust from cars and exhaust from factories that are around you, and different things that are just sort of like in the air, right? There's like radiation and electromagnetic frequencies and all of these things that sort of like disrupt us without us necessarily realizing it. One thing that you can do, here's a take-home tip for today, is if you sleep with your iPhone next to you, you need to consider moving it away from your body. And it's not because, number one, people like to play on their phones before they go to sleep, and the blue waves from, or the blue light from the phone actually stimulates us and keeps us awake. But while the phone, once you get to sleep and the phone is still by you, it's putting off electromagnetic radiation that will actually disrupt like brain patterns and, you know, different cellular metabolic processes that are happening. Excuse me. And it actually is not good for our health. So we have like physically moved those things away from us. We don't charge our phone at all really in our room if we can get away with it. We definitely don't try to charge a computer or anything like that. We try to move that stuff away from our sleeping environment. But we're also taking it one step further. Like, we are trying to make sure that like anything that emits electromagnetic radiation, we're also doing superfoods to help mitigate that as well. One of the most amazing superfoods that I take is chlorella. Chlorella is something that it's starting to gain a little bit more in awareness, and I'm trying to tell everybody about it now, is that it's just simply kind of like algae. It is a plant-based supplement that you can totally get at a Whole Foods or a Trader Joe's or whatever. And you can get it in powder form, liquid form, or you can even get it as a tablet. And so what that does, it helps sort of like, it's something called a chelating agent. And what it does, it helps bind up toxins that are inside of your body and helps naturally eliminate them from when you go to the bathroom. And so like I started doing chlorella, and I realized that I had a lot of heavy metals because of my situation coming from the military. I was exposed to lots and lots of heavy metals. And so like I started using chlorella in the last, 6 months to a year, and it's been revolutionary for my health. My energy has bounced back. I don't feel sluggish. I feel more acutely aware of things. And it's just been really great for me. But there are like 7 to 10 superfoods that we're going to talk to you guys about that will really, really help with all of the chronic like fatigue and mental fog and brain fog and stuff like that we can get. We're going to talk about stuff like BPA, right? Like we've heard that acronym. BPA is a type of really just a byproduct of like plastic, and it can leach into our water. And so we really want to make sure that like if we are going to consider using plastic, there are like these high density plastics that really mitigate the opportunity for BPA to be in these liquids that we're consuming. But the thing is like, I give you a pro tip. Get yourself a metal, like a stainless steel, like water canteen or drinking bottle, if you will, or glass, and use that instead, because there's zero chance that there's going to be BPA in that because it's not even plastic. And so we're going to uncover a lot about different toxins that we might be ingesting, and like it's just completely unbeknownst to us. And so these are the 4 or 5, actually, like I'm calling them my core 4. These are the 4 things that I addressed because I realized that my lifestyle can dictate what my health is going to be. We as Americans really can dive into this and help ourselves appreciate the fact that the reason why we spend so much money on medicine is because we're looking to fix a problem that if we choose these things, we won't have to be hit with these problems at all. And so I urge you to, like I said, comment below. Let's talk about this. Let's get it out there. Let's start interfacing. Matter of fact, I'm going to start a podcast as well, where I'm going to try to bring to you some really great people. I have a network of doctors and other health clinicians that are starting to do this with their patients and beyond. Matter of fact, I got a couple who have like started nonprofits because they have been so moved to helping people understand food and nutrition that they just wanted to see their patients in a very nonprofit way, and it's pretty interesting, all of the amazing things that they've been able to do. One of them's a pediatrician who is like just kicking butt where they're at, and they're doing an amazing job of like really helping even our young ones, starting it early to be able to understand how to eat for the future. And oh, by the way, it tastes good too. So stay tuned for that. I promise that we'll be letting you know about the podcast as soon as possible. That way you can listen to us in the car, on your drives, and all that sort of thing, because we are here for you. We want to help you achieve unconventional wellness just like we have, and elevate your game to where you cannot be a statistic. So let us know how we can help you. Comment below. And we just are so excited to be able to be on this journey with you. So have yourself a wonderful day, and we will definitely catch you again soon on another live video. Take care now.